Support for Colorado Today comes from Credit Union of Colorado. With access to over 30,000 ATMs and a mobile app, they're dedicated to offering the services of a big bank with a heart. Learn more at honestlygood.org.
Support for Colorado Today comes from Safeway, where you can shop online and get easy delivery or free pickup. Get the same prices, deals, and rewards as in-store. Shop the weekly ad, clip deals, and earn points at Safeway.com or in the Safeway app.
Hang in there. We're halfway through the week and through this heat wave. The Front Range forecast has highs in the upper 90s today and tomorrow, but we should start to cool down on Friday. And by Sunday, highs could be back down in the sweet 70s. I'm Bazi Kanani. Coming up, the State Board of Education will vote tomorrow on new science standards, and students are pushing for change.
Not once in these 3 years was I taught about climate change.
Then, law enforcement officials in Colorado say they captured Venezuelan gang leaders.
We will hunt you down, and we will go anywhere in the world in pursuit of you.
But at what cost when there are still no gang charges? Plus, is there someone in your family who's really competitive when playing board games? You may want to tell them about this competition.
It'd be so cool to win, prove that Denver belongs in the national scene.
It's Wednesday, August 20th. Here's the news in Colorado today. Students from Durango to Denver to Boulder say they're facing the biggest threat to human existence in their lifetimes. That is, climate change. One way they want to combat it is through education. And they say they're watching closely to see how Colorado's Board of Education votes tomorrow on science standards. CPR's education reporter Jenny Brundin has more on this. Jenny, you've spoken with students from Good Trouble Colorado, a network of high school and college sustainability clubs. What are they asking from the board?
The students are asking the board to make revisions to new science standards that clarify the link between burning fossil fuels and rising global temperatures. So how this works is the state board reviews standards in each subject every 6 years. This year, the board is updating science standards. The students say the current academic standards are out of date, and they say there's extra urgency because nationally political leaders are ignoring climate change.
Many of these students aren't even old enough to vote. Do they feel like it's their responsibility to push for these new standards?
They do. They say they've had to play a key role to get adults to acknowledge the gravity of the changing climate. Bryn Macros is one of them. She was a senior in high school in Colorado Springs when she testified at a November state board meeting.
Not once in these 3 years was I taught about climate change. Not once. We need to reevaluate our core curriculum now while we still have the chance.
Students are taking the lead in a number of areas. Last year, they lobbied and got state legislation passed to get a climate seal of literacy endorsement on high school diplomas. It recognizes students who've taken 2 climate-related science classes and have done a project in the community. We've even seen Denver middle schoolers lobby for more efficient heat pumps to better heat and cool schools.
What have the students told you about why this is important to them?
Yeah, studies show huge majorities of teens and young adults are worried about climate change. One shows 7 out of 10 young Americans are extremely worried. And other studies show the best way to relieve that anxiety is through environmental activism. Right now, there are just 2 references to climate change in Colorado's 172 pages of science standards.
Only 2 references. What are the students asking for?
For a year, a group of them worked with the Department of Education to propose 8 revisions to the standards. One includes clarifying evidence on how burning fossil fuels release greenhouse gases that cause rising global temperatures. But during a Board of Education meeting in April, 4 Republican board members objected to singling out burning fossil fuels. They said there are downsides about renewable forms of energy and noted that wind turbines kill birds. Board member Christy Burton-Brown noted that some students' parents work in the oil and gas industry.
It's a huge industry in Colorado. So I think considering our state, considering our districts, to present that to kids as only negative and not touching other forms of energy, I would have a big problem with.
The public also had a chance to weigh in on the proposed changes in standards. The department received nearly 1,000 responses. Most were from community members who were neither parents nor school staff. Many of them asked for a more balanced perspective on fossil fuels and renewable energy. Some said climate change is a hoax. But again, comments submitted by students overwhelmingly asked for stronger climate standards.
And so this brings us back to tomorrow. What exactly is the Board of Education voting on?
Yeah, after all this feedback, new language is now on the table for the board to consider. So whenever there's a reference to burning fossil fuels as a cause of global warming, the words "and other factors" would be added. So that perhaps appeases members who are uncomfortable with singling out fossil fuels. This means teachers can talk about the role fossil fuels play in warming the planet, but also other factors. Students say they will continue to push for other changes at the meeting tomorrow, such as mentioning climate change in every grade level. If the board accepts revisions, districts will have 2 years to implement them.
CPR's Jenny Brundin. Thanks, Jenny.
You're welcome.
The Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua was recently at the center of a sprawling investigation here in Colorado. Or was it? Officials from local and federal law enforcement agencies say they arrested some of the gang's leadership in a series of operations dating back to the Biden administration. But the gang connections are unproven. CPR's Allison Sherry is here to help us separate hype from reality after a press conference this week. Allison, it sounded like a big announcement, but you're not so sure.
Right. And law enforcement does this often. They have these big announcements. They put flags behind them, and they bring in all of the chiefs from 4 federal law enforcement agencies, including the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, the Department of Homeland Security. And there was this big collection of confiscated guns on a bulletin board on display for reporters. And then they started to talk about gangs.
Our agencies have utilized every resource available to address the Tren de Aragua threat and the harm this foreign terrorist organization has caused our community.
That's David Oleski. He's the special agent in charge at the Drug Enforcement Administration. There were 2 big indictments that included 30 people who are being charged mostly for gun and drug crimes. But I think the reason why this entire story merits closer examination by us is that most of the details about these crimes have been available for a long time. We knew about some of these people already in our tracking of these cases. But what it was a big repackaging of these cases under a new banner that they took down a big chunk of Tren de Aragua in Colorado.
Tell me more about that. You called it repackaging. Is that unusual?
Well, kind of. So arresting people for selling guns and drugs happens all the time with the DEA. They involve undercover operations, confidential informants. But in this case, the agencies really wanted to tell reporters that the group of defendants is bound together by the fact that they're all in Tren de Aragua or TDA. But when we started pressing them, the officials said, well, out of these 30 people, 8 of them were either leaders or members of the gang. The rest of them weren't. Here's David Oleski again.
Is this community safer today from the threat of TDA than we were a year ago? I'd say it is. Is there more work to be done? Absolutely. But the public can be assured that DEA will continue to be relentless in pursuit of members and associates of this organization with the ultimate goal of making our community safer and holding those accountable who cause it harm.
The thing is, when you look at actually the charging documents, this is what they're going to have to prove in court to a jury or judge. They're not charging them as a gang. There's not even mentions of gangs. They've not set themselves up to prove that any of these gang affiliations are real. And that's another thing that makes this big announcement so curious. We asked the U.S. Attorney how many members of this gang are in Colorado, and they declined to comment.
We heard from an official earlier who said that these arrests make our community in Colorado safer. So, Allison, I guess this last question is one about perspective. How much safer, especially given how much attention law enforcement is trying to give these arrests?
Yeah, and this is a hard question. I really appreciate it, though, because I have tried in all of my coverage of immigration this year to think about public safety all the time. Like, is what they're doing making the public safer in the United States? These extensive undercover operations started because there was a spike in crime at one apartment building in the South Metro area called Ivy Crossing. The sheriff said there was a 75% reduction in calls for service. So I will say I'm sure people who live at Ivy Crossing feel a lot safer now because there's not as many illegal guns and illegal drugs in that place. Now, more broadly, are we all safer? Is all of Colorado safer because of this effort? These agents spent a lot of time, almost a year, and they took down 8 people who they say were part of this gang. 2 of those people weren't even in the United States at the time. So I think this question is about opportunity costs. I think all of law enforcement is about opportunity costs. There are other gangs out there. There are bigger gangs out there. Should the federal government's time have been spent on those versus TDA? That's a question that many Coloradans may be asking.
CPR's Allison Sherry, thank you.
You're welcome.
Feeling a little overwhelmed by life? Maybe try taking a break to play a board game.
Wait, what do you have?
I have 1 week to trade.
You have 1 week to trade.
Catan, also known as Settlers of Catan or Catan, is one of the classics. And this past weekend, the best of the best in the U.S. came to Denver to play in the national championships.
All right, that's time. Start your timers. Raise your hand.
Denverite's Kevin Beatty was there to see a new champion crowned. First, Kevin, let's back up and talk about the game itself. I do love board games, but I haven't tried this one yet. What is this game about?
You should try playing it, Bozzy. It's one of my favorites. So it's a multiplayer game that first came out in the 90s. And basically you play as a growing civilization on an island competing for resources and territory. But it also really centers around collaboration because you must trade to get what you need to build cities and roads and win. And those are sheep, ore, wheat, bricks, and wood.
Lots of trading then. How long have you played Catan?
I think I've probably been playing since college. I really enjoy the wheeling and dealing of it. My wife says it turns me into a smarmy car salesman, and I'm fine with that. It's gained a really dedicated, kind of nerdy following around the world. And when I learned they were descending on Denver, I was like, let's go. I am in for this.
How does someone go from playing with and maybe even annoying their own family members to playing in the National Catan Championships?
Yeah, you have to qualify. There are local tournaments all over the country. 160 people qualified for this Nationals. And I met Nathan Dorn from Thornton, who was repping Metro Denver. He won a tournament at the Wizard's Chest, which is a legendary game shop in the city, and he was really, really excited to be there.
Is there a bit of local pride for you going on right now?
Oh, absolutely. It'd be so cool to win or even show well and prove that Denver belongs in the national scene.
Is championship level Catan a lot different from playing it at home with friends and family?
Yeah, they do have special rules for this. First of all, there's a timer which keeps things moving and eventually ramps up the pressure on the gameplay. And they also have rules against extortion and other unfair play that maybe you could get away with at home.
Not my home.
My home. I sat in on the finals and I was really struck that the 4 players there were all really on the same page. Especially at the beginning, they divvied up the map pretty diplomatically and they had a shorthand going between them.
You guys got to help feed me them, I guess. I know you guys all build to stand quicker, but
it's not a guarantee he gets a night.
It's not a guarantee.
And you need to work with other players, even if things are getting heated. And pretty much everyone I met said that tact and being honest and nice is really important at being good at this competitively. Here's Angela Relucio, who runs a Catan club out of Los Angeles.
And when you're playing Catan, yes, one person has to emerge victorious, correct? But you're all working together until a point where you can't work together because someone's agenda has to be lifted for the win, right? In order to do that, you need cooperation, you need community, you need civil discussions.
So sometimes nice guys do finish first. Speaking of that, Kevin, who won?
So his name is Barack Oscar of Irvine, California. I will say he did seem like a pretty nice guy. He won the title after a game that lasted about 2 hours, and he gets a trophy, but there is no cash prize in this.
Really?
Yeah, organizers said that would kind of ruin the magic, playing for money instead of honor. He does get to represent the United States in the Catan World Championships in 2027. And flexibility, he said, was his superpower, being able to change tactics as needed. But again, he said, you have to be civil and negotiate in good faith.
Everybody wants to achieve something, and you can't do it on your own. You really need collaboration with others, and it's always a compromise. And I think that's an example for the world. Like, just politically, yeah, we need to do that better as a planet.
We could all stand to play more board games.
That's right. And, a lot of people that I met said the world could take some lessons from this game since, civility and collaboration and goodwill feels a little rare these days. And that's actually feeding back into the organizational side of this, too. One person I met said that the World Championship could be held in the United States in 2027, but the state of things here, especially in dealing with visas for global players, has them looking elsewhere.
So no World Championship, but at least we did get to see these national champs in action here in Colorado.
I was so delighted to watch. It was fun.
Denverites Kevin Beatty. Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks as always.
Thanks for listening. To keep up on the biggest stories happening in your state, be sure to follow Colorado Today in your podcast app. I'm Vazi Kanani. This is CPR News.
Support for Colorado Today comes from Credit Union of Colorado. With access to over 30,000 ATMs and a mobile app, they're dedicated to offering the services of a big bank with a heart. Learn more at honestlygood.org. Support for Colorado Today comes from Safeway. Their pharmacists are here to help you and your family stay protected, offering a wide range of vaccines, including flu shots and COVID-19 boosters. Stop into the store or schedule online at safeway.com/pharmacy.